There we go. We're good to go.
Excellent. Fantastic. Okay. So good morning, everyone. As I said, we are going to be talking about adult learn to swim this morning. So just before we get started, just so you're aware, obviously, Swim England do not own or operate any of the leisure facilities that you may work for or the Learn to Swim division. And we only work with our individual partners when we're invited to do so. So we don't just turn up on your door and check that you're delivering the adult learn to swim framework, like we have said on the webinar today. So we just want to make sure that you guys know that if you have any questions related to the delivery of today's webinar, that you will take those back to your either swim school coordinator, your line managers, or your managers there, because we won't be able to answer any questions around the specific provision where you are teaching. We are still in our infancy with our webinars. We started them at the back end of last year. So they are still relatively new to us. So this is the first time I've used it on my Mac at home because my microphone on my Dell sounds like I'm hoovering, which is never great. So, you know, we are still exploring ways in which we can communicate with you guys. There's so many of you out there that want to come and talk to us, but I'll show you our team set up in a minute. To get out and talk to everybody is difficult because we haven't got lots of people on the grounds anymore to be able to do so. So trialling these webinars was a way of being able to do this. So the presentation is for information purposes only. It's not an accredited DPD, but obviously it does contribute towards your continued professional development, and it would be great if you could follow up when we finish the webinar today. We will be sending out some information for you to be able to give us feedback, good, bad or ugly. We really appreciate your honest feedback on how these are going and how we could improve them moving forward and the communication with you guys. So we would really appreciate if you could do that. All right then. Now the boring bits out of the way. Who are Swim England? So hopefully the majority of you know that we are the national governing body for swimming within England. We help support people learn how to swim, enjoy the water safely, and be competent in all of our sports. I think sometimes we forget that Swim England also look after diving, water polo, synchro, and obviously the competitive swimming side as well. So we have a number of sports that we are responsible for. So we're quite unique as an NGB that we're not just swimming like you would find just basketball, for example. We do have all of our sports that we look after. Our vision is a nation swimming, so we strive to inspire everyone to enjoy the water in whatever way suits them, and I think that's really key for us whether in a Learn to Swim team, that, you know, we're not just trying to create the next Adam Peaty out there. There might just be some people that are coming along to enjoy the water, regardless of where that is, on holiday, aqua aerobics, you know, canoeing, whatever. We want to make sure that everybody can enjoy the water. And millions of people are on our Learn to Swim programs at the moment. We also support our members, our clubs and our athletes, and we also run qualifications and education programs to develop the workforce out there, so you guys that are delivering swimming lessons. So today we're going to have a quick look at the Learn to Swim team and who we are, so you can put some faces to the names that you may see crop up or who you email. We're going to have a look at the Learn to Swim program, a brief overview, and then we're going to go into the research and insight and encouraging adults into Learn to Swim and improving that Learn to Swim environment for adults. So basically what we're going to do today is have a look at where the Adult Learn to Swim framework came from and the research and insight that went into the development of it, as we know that teaching adults is slightly different to teaching children, and how best you can offer those opportunities for adults to come into your pool environment without them just having to go into either group lessons that are at 9 o'clock on a Wednesday night because that's the only pool space that is available, or whether there are some other opportunities that you could potentially take from this and take back to your sites that you could look at encouraging more adults to come and learn how to swim. We're going to then have a look at the Adult Learn to Swim framework. All of the information on that is online, so we'll be able to send that out to you at the end of the webinar, and all of the free supporting resources that go with the framework as well. Okay, so the Learn to Swim team. You've got myself, Katie Towner, at the top there, head of Learn to Swim. These are in no hierarchical order, apart from me, I'm assuming, because I'm at the top. And then I have Alex Roberts, who is a new member of our team, who is responsible for our swim school membership and accreditation. So we do have a swim school membership for those Learn to Swim provisions out there that do want to be affiliated with the national governing body. And we also have an accreditation program through Right Directions, which means that you can become an accredited Learn to Swim provider, so you get that quality stamp. Previously, we didn't have anybody that was responsible for that area, so Alex has joined us probably 8-9 months ago now, and he's been working with the members in the area and speaking to our current membership to try and improve that offer. Then high on the agenda at the moment is school swimming. So we have Sue Barlow, who is our school swimming program manager. So she is responsible for the National Curriculum Training Plan courses, the school swimming CPD and the school swimming charter, and working with the Department for Education on those national curriculum outcomes. So we have Sue. Then I have Jessica and Michelle, who are my marketing and product development officers. So any of the marketing that you see and any of the products that are created, these guys are the ones that push those out through those channels and ensure that anything that we create is fit for purpose and the best possible resource that it can be. And then I have 4 Learn to Swim managers. So Bethan Laker, who is with us today, who looks after the south, Carolyn Dorr in the north, Dave Rayner, who covers London and East, and Mandy Mason, who covers the central part of England. So you should have a Learn to Swim manager within your area. But with over 2,000 Learn to Swim providers out there, obviously we are stretched a little bit thin on the ground, but you do have one of us that you can come and talk to at all times. So here's where we're all based. I'm down in Kent. Bethan, I don't know whether these are quite in the right dots. Bethan's over towards Bath. I've got Alex in Birmingham, Mandy West Midlands, Carolyn Dorr up near Manchester, and Sue in Yorkshire, and then both Jessica and Michelle are my only 2 sports park based members of staff. The rest of us are out on the grounds and travelling around, so you might listen to our voicemails. We always appreciate a phone call on the road. So what does the team do? So we work with partners to continuously improve the quality, quantity and consistency of their Learn to Swim programs being delivered. We want to ensure that everybody has a great experience when they access any aquatic environment, and especially when it comes to people delivering our Learn to Swim framework. So where we're invited to do so, we will work with partners to go in and review their Learn to Swim program and offer any support or advice to be able to help improve it and get more people through their doors. We also provide resources and guidance. So a number of the resources that you may have seen recently are the preschool activity cards. They were recently launched, and the expected standards videos. We've just done a lot of amends to our website as well, so you can have a look and download some free marketing resources, registers, printable registers, and other bits and pieces from there. So we produce those within the team. Our partners include a massive variety of whether that's an operator, either a national or a local operator, local authorities, swim schools and schools. We also work with the County Sports Partnership Network as well around the school swimming area. So we do have a number of partners that we work with, along with Southern Water and another few individual ones that we work with there. So there's quite a few people that cross paths. Okay, so the Learn to Swim programme, it's a national teaching syllabus for the UK that we have probably about 85% of Learn to Swim provision that are following the framework, and we make sure it ensures swimming lessons for all ages and all abilities, and we strive for it to be delivered to a high and consistent standard. It has specialised teaching frameworks within it, so it can be delivered to learners from preschool age all the way up to adulthood. It's a fun and inclusive programme to improve swimming competence, confidence, and as well as water safety in there. So the Learn to Swim programme is what it says on the tin. It is about learning to swim. So even when it comes to the adult Learn to Swim framework, it's all around learning to swim and making sure that people have the opportunity to go off into any aquatic discipline that they choose to do so. So the Learn to Swim framework, the stages 1 to 7, which the majority of you are probably most familiar with, has a variety of skills and strokes in there to be able to move on into water polo, synchro, diving, and it's very similar with the adult Learn to Swim framework. Although it's a little bit more flexible, it gives people the option to learn skills that they feel they require, working alongside the teacher, to be able to go off into their aquatic area that they want to do so. And then hopefully then we can feed through into that club environment. So the research and insight that went into the Adult Learn to Swim framework was quite extensive. It's estimated that 1 in 5 adults in the UK can't swim, And that's probably comparable with the children leaving primary school not being able to swim. Previous to last survey, it was still kind of around 40–45% of children leaving primary school that were unable to swim. Obviously, they're now moving into adulthood. That figure looks slightly better now. It's at 77%. But actually, if you drill that figure down in the less affluent areas, that's still only 42% of children leaving primary school being able to swim. Now, we know if they leave primary school without the knowledge or the skills to be able to swim, they probably take that through into adulthood as well. So we're still fighting a battle with this one. Although there is some good news, over half of the adults who are non-swimmers actually would like to learn how to swim. So there is a big market out there for adult swimming lessons, especially at the moment with a lot of open water. There's a big interest in open water, so people normally start thinking about going to the pool first. And the try market as well. There's a number of athletes out there that have come and found me and said, I've got a triathlon next week and I need to learn how to swim. Brilliant. I'm not sure I'm going to do that in a week, but we can sure try. So the adult market is a bigger market, and I think it's something that our operators and our learn to swim providers now need to start accommodating more for where they can. So that's more than 9 million people who can't swim. So there's quite a big market out there. And but research shows it's 2.3 million that actually want to learn to swim, but some are happy enough without those skills. So we've got a big market. So what does that mean? So we found this out at Swim England. We know that there's a big market out there for adult learn to swim. We also know that if the adults can swim, their children are more likely to learn how to swim as well. So what did we need to do next? We needed to encourage adults to learn how to swim. But we found through the research and insight that we did that there were 5 key behavioural challenges. The first being building confidence and swimming ability, broadening the relevance and appeal for swimming, talking about the benefits of swimming, and priming people to swim and strengthening the swimming habit. So we're just going to look at these 5 key areas and in a little bit more detail of what that actually means. So building confidence in the swimming ability meant that we had a number of adults that thought, actually, I can't go swimming because I'm not very good at it. Or if they did go swimming, they would find that they'd actually lost their ability to swim. We know how difficult it is when we go back into sport or back into exercise, that very first time out is often exhausting. So if you previously thought that you would be able to maintain those previous levels of swimming fitness, so both really reduce that confidence when trying to re-engage people. They find it quite an unrewarding experience, and it works against their future swimming. I mean, I'm quite like this. If I can't do something first out, it really knocks me to be able to try and go back again. So I think we need to build confidence in the ability and try to make sure that adults and children have a really positive first experience of that swimming pool environment, and that they're not asked to do something that is above what they might have previously thought that they could do, but rein it back a little bit. They obviously become a little bit more self-conscious as you become an adult, so you might not want to go into that swimming pool environment thinking that you're not very good at it. And then it was broadening the relevance and appeal. So I was like, what does this actually mean? So for those of us that aren't chlorinated, as I call it, not from a swimming pool environment, it's very, very daunting. You don't really see swimming on the telly, and if you do, it's normally racing. You might see some people playing in the pool on a holiday advert, but actually most people's perception of swimming is it's either lessons for very serious or fast swimmers, so they find it a very intimidating environment if you're less confident, or they perceive it to be swimming lessons like they experienced when they were a child. I know that my swimming lessons were not great as a child, and actually, it actually made me want to come back and learn more. But a lot of my friends don't swim because they were used to being thrown into the pool and dragged across the other side with a pole being shoved in front of them, and had a really negative and that lasting memory of that experience meant that actually they probably didn't go near a pool. So these are people's perceptions of coming into the pool. We need to change that. Talking about the benefits of swimming as well, everybody kind of thinks it's a low impact exercise and that it's not really that, not for me. So we needed to talk about benefits outside of that, thinking about how it is, not just a life-saving skill or low impact. How can it be good for you? Thinking about those triathletes, thinking about those people that are in the gym. Actually, swimming can be quite a workout. We need to make sure that in our promotion and advertising of adult swimming lessons, that we promote those things, that swimming isn't the easy option and it isn't that low impact exercise. Why is it important? And talk about those benefits of, that all-round workout is a great way to get people into the pool. And then we need to prime people to swim. Swimming pools are often behind closed doors, or if you're peeping through the window, it's normally frowned upon and you've got a lifeguard telling you to move on. But people don't track how far they've swum. If you look on Facebook these days, you have people saying how far they've run, they map their runs, their cycles, they post pictures of themselves in the gym. And it doesn't happen in the swimming pool environment, so it's often hidden away. So we need to think about how we get out into the community to talk about what we do within our swimming pools. Obviously, we have less media coverage as well, so there's little or no promotion outside the leisure centres. There might be a banner or a poster if we're lucky, but normally we have to go into the leisure centre to find out information on adult swimming lessons, or on websites it's normally then a click through from the children's swimming lessons. Again, something that adults won't necessarily find. So often what is available reinforces lessons or lanes, and people think it's not aimed at them. So it's very difficult for them to find an activity that they may want to go to. So trying to create that community environment is important. And then we needed to strengthen the swimming habit. So people can perceive swimming to be too much hassle, having to get their hair dried afterwards. So beforehand, they might not have the information they need, or timetables on your websites and things might not be up to date. They have to prepare, making sure they've got the right kit. And it's quite time consuming if you're going as a family. Those of you who've got kids can remember trying to shove everything into a locker. And there's an unspoken pool etiquette, which can be confusing and intimidating. Which way am I supposed to swim round in a lane? And then getting changed afterwards. So we need to make sure that we try and make the swimming experience as hassle-free as possible, and ensuring that our facilities and our operators take these things into consideration and make that journey through from reception to the poolside as seamless as we can. So the swimming habit could be weakened by a number of factors and operational issues. So often adults might not even make it to you guys onto the poolside because the pool could be dirty or poorly maintained. Lack of basic amenities, so if the hair dryers don't work, or if you've just got a hand dryer that's put a little bit higher and people have got to go back to work, or they're finishing work and they want to go home but they want to dry their hair, can be off-putting. Also that journey from reception. Again, before they even get to you, if they haven't had a really great experience with the receptionist, or the receptionist hasn't understood that the adults that are coming to them have not been to the facilities before, it can be quite daunting, and they can be perceived to be disinterested. It could be busy or crowded, and again, for those nervous or weak swimmers, that could be an off-put. And lack of culture or functional feel, so nowhere healthy to eat or drink or socialise afterwards. So you might go to the swimming pool cafe and there might be only chips or burgers available. So again, thinking about what we can do outside of those. Now, I appreciate that not everybody on here is going to be able to change the facilities that they have and that they're working from, but you can definitely go through with some ideas and suggestions later on in this presentation that you could potentially take back to your employees. So despite these challenges, from the research we found actually when people got into the pool and they found their teacher, they had a great time. They realised that it was huge opportunities for them, and that they actually started to remember why they wanted to go swimming, and they put that forefront, whether it was to get a new job. I don't know if anyone's seen recently that Virgin, the planes, Richard Branson has said that all of his cabin crew now need to learn to swim. So actually we've got loads of different reasons why people are coming into the pool, and once they get in there, they normally find out that after they've had their swim that they actually feel a lot better and they feel less stressed, and they realise that they're getting fit or working towards the goal, which is great. So we do have an audience. So these are a few reasons of why adults want to learn to swim. Is anybody, I know there's quite a few of you on the call today, just to save my voice, has any of you got any other examples of why an adult might have come to you guys to learn how to swim that's outside of the norm?
If you want to speak, guys, just hover over your microphone and just click it so it then turns white and grey, and then obviously you'll be live.
I guess for me it's just people learning to swim before they die. You know, like I don't know, like a New Year's resolution or something like that. They've never done it previously, and that was one of the things they wanted to do in life. Yeah.
Excellent. Any other strange? I'll give you one of my strange examples that I had. A guy on part of the research that we did around the framework come along to us, and he wanted to learn how to swim because he needed to jump out of a helicopter into the sea and swim in a life vest over to an oil rig to climb up it, which I thought was really interesting. That hadn't even occurred to me that would have been a thing before. So obviously how I taught him was slightly different. You know, he needed to learn how to do head up front crawl. Is there any other anomalies out there of why an adult has come to them to learn how to swim?
Kate put on the chat that adults want to learn to swim for their children or to be able to support their disabled children.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's really great because a lot of parents will just sit in the spectator areas and not actually get into the water themselves, and they're obviously missing an opportunity for that family time. So it's great when they do come along and they recognise the benefits of coming together as a family, definitely. We also had Stuntman on the research as well, who had to do a 200 metres to be able to be a stuntman, which I thought was interesting. Again, not something that I had considered, but it just showed there was a variety of reasons why people were coming to the pool, and it's great. It was really interesting. Is there any more on there, Bethan?
Yeah, in the lessons I do at my place, I had some guy come in who's pretty similar to what Zoe said about like the bucket list. So I think he was 80 years old when he came in, so I was like, oh, blimey heck. But it weren't great, to be honest, but obviously it was just great for him to have a crack at it. And another one as well was some guy who came because he's bought himself a kayak, but he can't swim. So obviously his mates go kayaking, so his challenge is to learn how to swim so he can get in the kayak.
I love that, and the 80-year-old coming swimming, that is brilliant. I think it's awesome that, you know, age isn't a barrier to learning how to swim at all. You know, it's the most inclusive sport that we have out there, and I think that really shows. Bethan, I saw some others pop up there. What was that? They just kind of disappear off my screen.
Yeah, so you've got rehabilitation from a stroke, armed forces, husband bought lessons for his wife.
That could have gone two ways, really, couldn't it? If your husband had brought lessons to the wife, did she want them?
Yeah, I think that's most of them, and obviously, yeah, armed forces is another one.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got quite a bit of a variety of experience amongst us with people coming to us of why adults want to learn how to swim. And I think the challenge is for us is to be able to accommodate for them all. So hopefully some of the hints and tips that we'll give you throughout this presentation are going to give you a hand with that. So thank you everyone for interacting there, it's great. So we found out that we had a number of adults that couldn't swim. We had a number of adults that wanted to come swimming, but there was some behavioural challenges for us to overcome to actually get them into the pool. So what were we going to do about that? So within Swim England, we created the framework for growing swimming. Now, this isn't specific just to adult swimming lessons. This is our framework for growing swimming throughout, but actually it is relevant to adult swimming lessons as well. So we don't have a final frontier, unfortunately, but we do have our 3 frontier model, and we found that actually we need to address all of the frontiers to get more people through our doors. So increased swimming's relevance and visibility, improving that overall swimming environment, which we've touched on previously about that swimming habit, and tailoring the swimming offer to meet all those different needs that we have identified. So if we think about increasing awareness of swimming relevance, have a think about all of the ways in which we could promote the swimming lessons and the great job that you guys do on that pool side. There's no point in you being the best teachers out there, the most enthusiastic teachers, you know, great tips, hints, you create that social environment. If nobody knows that you're actually there and that you're on the pool side, as we said, swimming's normally hidden. So some of the ways that you can promote your swimming lessons and what you do or your one-to-ones through a variety of things that you can see on the screen. Job centres, you know, most of us are in a job because we've learned how to swim. Thinking about holiday agents, we've identified that a number of people want to go on holiday and learn how to swim. So why don't we push our messaging out through holiday agents? Thinking about our county sports partnerships as well and those local authorities, is there anything that we can push through there? I am going to open it up again to the floor and just know whether there's anything else that you guys are aware of, either you do personally or your leisure centres do, outside of what we've got here that promote your lessons and what you do on poolside. So if there is anything available that isn't listed already and you have some great tips, it would be good to share.
Hi, right, it's me again. We have our leisure centre, it's called like a fit street, so it's called a fitness, so we'll pick a street in the local area, and for that week they can use the leisure centre as much as they want for free. So obviously it's not necessarily for swimming, but obviously because it's leisure centre, you know, like gym classes and whatnot, so that's somewhat different to obviously what's on the screen at the minute, but yeah, it seems to work all right.
Excellent. I like that. Do you have kind of an ambassador for Fit Street that rounds everybody up to take them down, or do you just kind of leaflet the street at the time?
Yeah, it's just whoever wants extra hours or needs some extra holiday hours, just you know, go down and do it. So it just varies who wants to do it, to be honest. So.
Oh, cool. No, I've not heard that street before. That's really cool. I like that idea. Any more on the chat, Bethan?
Sorry, my connection completely dropped out then, so I haven't had anything come through just yet, no.
Okay, I thought there was church groups that had come up as well. They're really great ways.
Hang on. Yeah, church groups, and then Kate said that they have ladies from a group from a local mosque.
Excellent. Good. So there are, community groups, other ways in bringing them in. Good. So again, if you can and you can get your messaging out there about what you guys will do on poolside, have a think about these ways. I'm really enjoying Fit Street and the church groups or the local mosques. I think they're really good ways of pushing out there and getting to an audience that you might not necessarily get to anyway. Okay, so we're going to think about improving our environment. So some few tips and tricks. Obviously, when it comes to adults, it is very, very difficult if you are going outside of your normal zones, so people that don't necessarily come into your facilities. How are you going to get them to sign up to swimming lessons to come and meet you onto the pool side? Kids come along because their parents sign them up, but how do we get adults in there? So we're going to think about some ways in which that we get adults to the pool. If we've done all of our marketing and they're interested, and they ring up your reception guys, we need your receptionist or your admin to be able to answer any questions that they might have or signpost them in an effective way and immediately. If the person leaves the phone not getting the answers that they need, you're probably not going to get them into the pool. But if you do, think about that dry side induction. So we have a tool that we'll show you a little bit later. If you go to a gym, you have to have an induction. You have to be shown how to use all of the equipment. You probably have to fill out a medical record, but actually if you go for a swim and your receptionist takes you £3, £5, whatever it may be, and you go through onto the pool deck and you get into the pool and you can use that water however you wish. But I've seen it before when some people have gone into the pool and they're doing breaststroke with their head up and then they go, oh yeah, my doctor or my physio told me to go swimming because I've just had my knees done. I'm like, oh yeah, you probably shouldn't be doing breaststroke then. So actually a dry side induction, first of all, will identify any areas that you need to be aware of before people go into your swimming pool. Now, I know that's not possible for every member of the public that's coming through the door, but specifically for your swimming lessons, actually getting to know that adult, getting to know their fears, their motivations, their barriers, their goals, what they might want to achieve, and any medical information, and having that one-on-one chat actually breaks down some barriers beforehand. So you get to know that swimmer. And you get to show them where they're going to take their lockers, where they're going to pay for their lockers, where they're going to come through and meet you, whether they can take their towels onto poolside. All of these sorts of questions I think we take for granted as swimming teachers because we're out there all the time. We actually need to be able to show all of our adult learners before they even get into the pool. Does anyone else have any tips or tricks in improving that swimming pool environment and anything that, or challenges that you guys have come across in getting people from the reception onto your poolsides and into your lessons, or anything that you found that really works well for you?
You know, there was some sort of swim fit program that I think it was Greens or someone like that had done it originally, or Nuffield or something, and they had the program cards. So it started, you know, maybe a few lengths or whatever, and then it just progressed. So it was program cards for people to follow to get them to improve and to keep them coming. That was quite a good thing that they done.
Yeah, SwimFit was worked really well. It was Nuffield have taken it on across all of their sites. It was something that Swim England, well ASA as it was at the time, so I was an operator, had there, and those progressive cards. So thinking about the adult progression, so something that they can follow, so they can see their clear goals and what they're working towards is a great tip. Thank you, guys. Something else? Any more in the chat?
Yeah, I've got another one on chat. There's so many people on here, it's quite difficult to see the chat at the same time. Bear with.
This is great for a Friday morning. We've got so many people logged on. I love this.
This is the time to do it. So Emma says a two-way conversation with adults, so you can show them the objectives on the framework and talk them through why you're going to be doing what, like the basics and you know, things like floating and body position.
Yes, because a lot of them are going to get in and just start swimming straight off, and they can't float or streamline yet.
And then Kate has said, like with the ladies only, having the learner pool closed, off to public, so curtains across the window, so it is just private for them. Also outside of lessons, as in normal lessons, for children's lessons.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there was, for example, we were trying to work with one site where they wanted to do the adult and the kids, so you learned to swim as a family. I thought that was quite a nice one as well. So everybody kind of started at the same point. You learned to swim as a family, and then there was support, obviously, for the child and for the adult there. So I wouldn't suggest that with some really nervous parents, with some kids that are probably less nervous. But if you've got everybody that's comfortable being in the water, a family lesson could be another nice way of enjoying that environment as an adult as well. Thank you. Okay, so some key skills that we need to have to be an adult learner. Thinking as a teacher, of adults, and I think this goes across being a teacher for children as well, but all of these things that are on the screen come with confidence and competence in your teaching ability. Now, my ask for you guys is, I know that some of you will be on here and you already teach adults how to swim, but some of you might be coming on here just to listen and see whether it's something that you might want to start doing. It's touched upon within the level 2 qualification, so there is the opportunities as and where possible for people to have some experience of teaching adults. But I remember doing my level 2 15 years ago, and I did kind of 2 half-hour adult sessions, and I really didn't enjoy them because I felt that the adults knew more than I did when that wasn't the case at all, and I really struggled being a lot younger than them at that point, thinking that they wouldn't take me seriously. So these key skills that are on the screen, being patient, friendly, fun, approachable, adaptable, flexible, I was suitably qualified. But that only came with experience. So for you guys that are adult teachers out there, and you do know that you're working with some new level 2s that are coming through onto poolside, offer them the opportunity to come and work along you guys to get some experience and gain some confidence, so they can be all of these things on the screen. I remember being asked to cover an adult lesson, and I was on pool deck and there was nobody else to do it, and I absolutely hated it, and I really didn't want to go back and have another go because I hadn't had that experience in being able to talk to the adults or figure out exactly what we were going to do with them. And I had 8 different abilities in one class as well. I couldn't all just give them a noodle and expect them to kick to the other side. It wasn't going to work like that. So I needed to learn myself. So please, my ask from you guys that are already teaching is to let the level 2 shadow you, and any new level 2s that are on here at the moment that think they're going to start teaching adults, go and get some experience first. Go and practice with some friends and get some experience before you go on poolside, so you can be all of these things. So another thing that the adults really liked from the research was the social element of it, and these are some of the things that they really wanted after their swimming lessons. And we know it's very, very difficult to ensure that the class keeps the same teacher as they progress as a whole. I mean, that's an ideal situation and they're going to be able to keep moving on, but, you know, they might have to move from a teaching pool into a fitness pool, for example, so the teacher does need to change due to timings. So what I would say is if you have got a group of adult teachers on your poolside, when your new learners come onto that poolside, introduce the team as a whole, so they don't get worried when there is a new person taking them. You know, you build a rapport with everybody and introduce that teaching team. So there isn't that expectation that it is just, you know, I can only go with Bethan on a Monday at 5:30, you know, because she is the only teacher that can teach me. Then actually everybody's there and they might learn something slightly different from somebody else. So making that, having different teachers okay and acceptable. We know that obviously consistency is great, but it can't happen all the time, especially when they progress through to becoming swimmers. They really liked having refreshments after class. Some facilities that we worked with didn't have any cafe facilities available, so the leisure centre managers at the time would just put in soft drinks and some biscuits out for them afterwards, so there was an area for everybody to have a chat either before or after class. Another thing that the learners really enjoyed from the research was that we signed them up to a challenge. So we did the swimathon with them. So we signed them up to a challenge to see how far that they could compete the swimathon. And what was really nice is we had both the non-swimmers and the swimmers involved in that same challenge. And some people didn't want to get into the pool because they weren't quite confident enough in the deep end, but they came along anyway to cheer on their friends in that social environment and either count the lengths or help out with the hats or the drinks afterwards or putting the bunting and the balloons up, which is really nice. So if there's any challenges that you can get your adult learners to work towards and work towards it together, that was another great way of bringing that social element into the classes. And then swimming buddies, so learners can swim with like-minded others. There's nothing wrong with letting them bring a friend along to give them a hand in the water or partnering them up. At the facility that I used to work at a few years ago, we had the improvers lessons. They were kind of 15 minutes starting after the beginners lessons. Beginners lessons are in the teaching pool, but what we did was got the improvers in 15 minutes earlier to get into the pool and help the others out, and it became a really great social environment. So think about other people that you can use to support your adult learners. So I think one of the challenges as a teacher, and I think some of you might agree with me, but shout if you don't, is that you do have such a variety of abilities within the same class. It isn't the same as adult children's learn to swim, where you get a slight differentiation, you know, those who can and those who can't turn their feet out, for example, but you have such a variety of differences within that adult class. It comes quite daunting to feel like you've given enough time to each of them. Does anybody else feel that if you've got kind of 8 in a class or 6 in a class, that you haven't been able to give enough time to each of them? You almost want to teach them on a one-to-one basis.
Yeah, I feel like we do it on a Saturday at 12, and on a good day we'll probably get about, I think the most we've had is at about 9, maybe 10. And the difference is, like you say, it's crazy, and you feel bad because obviously the ones who can swim to a decent standard, and a lot of them it's more confidence based, so a lot of people come in just to try and, like, you know, they're scared of the deep water, like assisting them to go into the deep end and whatnot, and then you just, with a few people, because you know they can swim, you don't actually really do anything with them. Yeah. Because if you get one non-swimmer in, then pretty much your whole attention is pretty much with them, and you kind of feel guilty after. Obviously, they understand, but it's not brilliant.
No. We really found actually if they can bring a buddy along with them, you can almost set them off on a task, you know, even whether it's just basic floating or blowing bubbles or learning how to do a push and glide. If you end up with a buddy or a friend with them, or using an assistant teacher to help support, really helps with that environment and to make it a lot better. I appreciate, Luke, you said they understand and they do, but it it doesn't make you feel any better that they've actually achieved something. And that's where I was thinking, how else can I do this? And actually letting them bring a friend or their husband or their partner into the water really helped me then be able to get around everyone and creating more of a social environment. So I'm glad it wasn't just me.
No, I think as well that with the social aspect of it, like because it's like quite a close knit group now, they all kind of encourage each other as well. So you know, we all kind of know who's at what standard. So it's not so bad at our place, to be fair, but.
And that's that social environment that kind of proves the research that we have done in finding out what adults like you've put into practice, and it's working, so it's great. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to think about teaching adults now. So in teaching adults, we think about the fundamental movement skills. Now, fundamental movement skills should be in place by the time a child is 9 years old. Now, we know for a fact that children are still coming through into our classes without these basic fundamental movement skills in place because they're not actually physically active enough. So they're not able to run, jump. If they can't jump, they can't push and glide. And the same is for adults. I'm a prime example. My step count, well, I got rid of my Apple Watch because it kept buzzing at me to tell me to stand up. I'm, more inactive now because of work commitments, drive time. And actually, probably my fundamental movement skills aren't as good as they were when I was a child. So we might have to take adults right back to basics. And we need to explain to adults why we're taking them back to running or jumping or gliding and understanding buoyancy. So they know how that they're going to develop as a swimmer. So don't underestimate the fact that because they are adults, that they actually have these skills in place. You may need to take them right back and actually first of all start improving their overall physical ability, even to be able to run around in the water, then actually starting them to start floating or swimming. And I think that can become quite frustrating for adults because they think, well, I'm here for a swimming lesson, so why are you getting me to run around the pool? Why are you not getting me to swim? But actually they need to be able to do those things to them to be able to progress. Sorry, Bethan, did I see something pop up then?
Yes. So Cara was agreeing with you earlier about it's really, really difficult with a range of different swimmers. And then Steph has said that some adults will be restricted by arthritis, etc.
Yeah, definitely. Arthritis, those health conditions are a big deal. So being able to, if they are restricted by arthritis, actually thinking about ways in which that we can support and accommodate and adapt for those. So looking at the ability of the adult rather than the inability, and maybe coming up with some hybrid strokes. But we're just going to go on to that. I'm just conscious of time.
Just while we are talking about arthritis, and whilst we've mentioned it, we are delivering other webinars. We have delivered one on arthritis in the past, and I think we're going to be looking to do more this year, but we're also looking at how swimming can help with stroke rehabilitation, and obviously people who have had strokes, and obviously that can then be applied into the adult learn to swim aspect of your lessons as well.
Excellent. Yeah, keep a lookout for, say at the beginning, we do a number of webinars, not just with us or myself and Bethan talking, but with other charities, including Mind as well. So there are other things out there that can help towards your adult swimming. So if they've got their basic fundamental movement skills in place, our adult framework is also built up on our core aquatic skills, very similar to like it is with the children's one. So again, adults want to know why you are teaching them certain skills, and actually them understanding the difference between fundamental movement skills and core aquatic skills. I think with adults, they ask more questions. They're more inclined to want to know why you're doing the things that you're doing with them, which is great, and I love that interaction. So just be mindful to talk about core aquatic skills as well, because they are really important. And then with the adult framework, we've got fundamental movement skills, so hopefully if they're physically active and they can move around the pool quite well, and then we've worked on their core aquatic skills, then we can start building on their strokes. We do need to teach adults to understand that there are building blocks to strokes, that we're not just going to teach them the whole stroke. Sorry, I just saw another one pop up there, Bethan. Just jump in with when you've read it.
Yeah, Emma's just saying that restricted movement due to injury. So she's got a swimmer that can only breathe to one side. I was thinking about I might chuck it in when we talk about hybrid stuff, but okay. It's there already.
We will get there. So yeah, thinking about black, so making sure that you build up on body position, leg action, arm action, breathing, and timing. As I say, adults are more inclined to want to throw everything together and not break it into separate parts, but also thinking about those restrictions. And this goes for children or adults, is looking at that ability. So if they have got restricted leg action because of things like arthritis, get them in a good body position and then start working on their arm action. You know, you can move it up a step and make some allowances if they can't do the previous thing. If their leg action is actually causing them to go backwards, think about other things that you can do with them. So this is where we come on to adapting our technique. So we're going to talk about some of the inabilities that you guys might have come across. But some of the things that I've come across is flexibility. So when we talk about arthritis, but also just, I can't even touch my toes anymore. I'm painting a really good picture of myself here, aren't I? But flexibility, flexibility in the ankles. If their ankles are not flexible, they're probably going to kick with their toes flexed, which means that they're not going to go anywhere. Different body types we need to take into consideration as well. Adults need to understand where they float within the water, because I can't swim, I sink. No, you just float slightly differently to everybody else, and you might float under the water, or you might have an inch of your head above the water. But getting them to understand their body types as well. Individual preferences. Some people might not want to ever put their face in the water. Obviously, we're going to definitely try to encourage it, but they might have a preference on what they want to do. And thinking about hybrid strokes, the difference between the adult learn to swim framework and the children's learn to swim framework, and not to say that these stages 1 to 7 aren't flexible, they are, but actually there isn't a requirement for that stroke to look a certain way. If they want to do front crawl legs with breaststroke arms, that's absolutely fine, not a problem at all. And we also might need to think about correcting bad habits. Some of those swimmers that are coming to us, and I get this all the time, especially my tri-swimmers, they have been practicing a distance for weeks, and now eventually they've come to me and said, actually, can you look at my technique? But they've ingrained some really bad habits, so we've had to unpick that and take that right back to make that look slightly different. Bethan, was there another couple of pop-ups there?
Yes. 2 seconds.
Just while Bethan's having a look, has anybody got anybody that they've had, who's had arthritis as an example, or anybody that they've had to adapt a technique for because of a physical limitation?
So the comments that we've got, Katie, Steph said that adults tend to analyse more than kids. Kids obviously just normally kind of get on with it. Yeah. And then Colette has put, each week I reinforce for my swimmers that we strive for progress and not perfection. No matter how small progress is, it's still progress. And by removing the mindset of I need to perfect this, it stops them from getting frustrated by mobility and movement restrictions. I love that comment. I think that's brilliant.
That is a really good comment. And that, again, that goes with that regular reward and recognition of achievement. So thinking about, well done today, you got a little bit lower in the water, or actually you got as far down as a step. So, we're not saying that they need a well done badge or certificate every time they make a little, but acknowledgement of that achievement is really important with adults. They like to see that.
And in terms of limitations, we've got things like amputation, we've got stroke, curvature of the spine, hip and knee replacement, restricted movement in the shoulders. That would be me. I'm the most unflexible person in my shoulders ever. And then all sorts of problems with shoulders. So shoulders seems to be quite a big one.
Okay. So before I talk about shoulders and inflexibility in shoulders, obviously thinking about either that overarm recovery, front or back, or thinking about breaststroke, arm pull, is there any adaptations that people have already made that they've experienced that have worked well with shoulder problems? Someone said screwdriver swimming. I just saw that pop up. Is that where you get them to roll right over onto their back? Bethan, while you're looking at those, I'll just talk about shoulder and rotation problems. Obviously, with shoulders, if they can't reach out and get a good pull on the water, they're obviously not as effective. In that, yes, rolling right over. So roll front and then roll back for 3. So think about that rotation. If adults have problems in propulsion, they will then also struggle to get a breath in. So it's okay to over-exaggerate a practice, so getting them to roll onto their back if you think that's easier. The most important thing is that they stay in a streamlined position to the best of their ability. So if it does mean they need to roll over onto their back to get a breath, then that's absolutely fine. Also think about other things that they can do outside of the swimming lesson. So we want to encourage them to make sure that they understand that being physically active outside of their swimming lessons is going to improve their swimming ability. So to improve flexibility, recommend things like yoga or Pilates. There's, some online videos, but obviously they all need to check with their doctors first before they just go off and get one of these big Dynabands and start stretching at home. And we don't want to encourage any further injury. But yeah, think about things or advise them to even maybe go as a group and go and do some yoga with a professional or see a physio to help improve things outside of those lessons.
We've got a few comments, Katie. So chicken swimming, I've never heard of that. So Kate said chicken.
That's where they're just elbows are just coming out. That's what I'm thinking. Chicken wings.
Yeah. So Kate put that to develop flexibility, and then Steph has said that she had to have a rotor cuff repaired due to incorrect stroke. So obviously I think it's quite key. We used to teach the front crawl, for example, in one way, and obviously now we teach it differently because we know that it can cause shoulder injury. So, obviously just to be mindful of that. And then Emma's put, with stiff ankles, I get them to do exercises at home to point their toes or take their feet and rock on their knees.
Yeah,
Kate put some
pointing and flexing those toes. Perfect.
Yeah, and then Kate said summed in armpit. So that's what the chicken swimming is.
Yeah. I was doing a demonstration, then realised no one could see me, which is probably a good thing. But thinking about that rotator cuff one as well, a lot of people were teaching that thumb and index finger entry, which means the palm, again, I'm demonstrating and you guys can't see me, the palm was facing out. So the pressure was being pushed and the hand was pushing out away from the body, ready to come back in again. Actually, now we want them to teach like fingertip entry to get that catch on the water and pull straight back. So it's funny how things change and they move forward. But find something that works for that adult, so work with them. Something that you might try, and I want to say to you, give them the confidence to have a go. Ask them how it feels and ask for feedback. If it's uncomfortable, try something else. It's not a failure if one thing doesn't work for them. Move on to another thing or adapt that technique ever so slightly to make sure that it's comfortable for them. So that regular feedback from the adult, rather than setting them off on a length and then waiting until they come back. Set them off on shorter distances, stop, have that conversation, find out how it feels, and then go again. Maybe you might need to tweak it a little bit for them and then let them go again. So rather than getting them to do big distances, which these adults are going to want to do because that's where they see their achievement, actually educate them into understanding that smaller distances, regular feedback, both ways from the adult and from you guys, is going to help improve their technique and what you do. Is there any more for any more, Bethan, before we move on? I'm just conscious this is great, but I think it's 11 o'clock.
No, Emma's quite intrigued by the whole chicken thing, so I think we can pick up on that afterwards.
Okay.
You can even do a demonstration, Kate, and we can send the video around.
I'm not doing that. Maybe, we'll see. Okay, so that's a bit about adapting technique and then using different flotation equipment as well. So I think some adults are quite worried about using a noodle. They perceive it to be a piece of equipment for a child, but actually make that fun for adults and how they're going to use that. You might use belts, fins, think about fins with the inflexible ankles. You just need to be careful that you're not going to cause any damage. But again, if they have a go on them, they're not comfortable, then take them off. Have a think about what's appropriate and what isn't. So hopefully that's given you some ideas of where the adult swimming framework came from and a few hints and tips of how to teach your adults. And now we're just going to quickly look at the adult framework. So it's changed. Previously it used to be stages 1 to 7 just in green, and it still had a few references to children in there as well, and we just felt that it wasn't suitable for all of those different scenarios that I've presented and you guys have said that you've come across. So it didn't really fit the bill for me of what these adults wanted from the research. So we've changed it slightly, and what we have now is 4 separate frameworks. It was only going to be 3. It was going to be water confident, be a swimmer, be a better swimmer, and that's where I was going to stop. but actually from the research we found there was a number of adults out there that wanted to go into the masters section of a swimming club, but they didn't have the technical knowledge. They didn't know about starts or turns or takeovers or the pace clock, or they hadn't been anywhere near a diving block or a kickboard, for example. That they were unsure when they got there. So again, it was a negative experience. So we were thinking about, well, what could we do? So we worked with Sharon Locke, who is our masters expert within Swim England, and created the 4th section of the framework, which was Be a Master Swimmer. So Be Water Confident does what it says on the tin. It's about actually getting the adult into the pool to start off with, and be comfortable with floating, using flotation equipment, putting their faces in the water, moving around, entering and exiting the pool. With the framework, they don't need to complete all of the outcomes. It's for you to work with the learner that's in front of you to identify the outcomes that are applicable to them at that time. The only one I would say you probably want to complete all the outcomes for is the Be Water Confident section. And then we move through. So as I said, Be Water Confident is for nervous swimmers, and then we have our second section, which is the Be a Swimmer. So this gives learners the skills necessary to start swimming independently, so over short distances without that use of flotation equipment. As they move through, so there is quite a number of outcomes that are associated with each of these awards. These are also certificates. They're just small A5 certificates. Within the research, we found that actually it was completely down the middle whether adults wanted certificates or not. Some adults were quite okay with their own personal achievement, but some adults really wanted certificates, so we created the smaller ones that are available for them as well. So on the Be a Swimmer, there will be a number of different strokes that are available on there, but obviously they don't have to do them all, because if they can't physically do them, that's absolutely fine. The idea behind this framework is you select the outcomes that are relevant to your learner at that point in time, so you don't scare them with being able to tread water for 30 seconds, jump into the deep end, all of those kind of outcomes, but work with them, and then you can go, look, these are the 4 that you selected 6 weeks ago. Now look, we've selected 10 of them, and this is what you've achieved so far. So it's a really nice way of building up their confidence without scaring them off on day dot. Then we have Be a Better Swimmer, so it's for those that can swim about 25 metres, or those that have come to you can probably swim further than that but have poor technique. So this is where we try and build up on their technique and their stamina within this section. And then the Be a Master Swimmer, as I said, is those that can swim more competently but actually want the skills necessary to go into the Masters section of the swimming club.
So we do have a question, Katie, on the Be a Master Swimmer bit from Cara. So Cara's asking if you need to do a CPD to be able to deliver the competitive aspects of that part.
It depends what qualification that you have. So if you do have your qualification, I think it's pre-2007, and you did the diving aspect within your qualification, then that's absolutely fine. You can deliver that, no worries at all. But if you haven't, then you can just select the outcomes that they need to be able to do, or you can go on the competitive CPD. It depends which outcomes that they want to achieve at that point, but there isn't anything on there that, unless you haven't been taught how to teach diving, you shouldn't be able to deliver.
And I think we've got another one, 2 seconds. So Emma's asking how we get hold of the certificates for them.
The certificates are on the shop. So Bethan and I can send the link out later to where you'll find them. So the certificates on the shop, they don't come with a badge, it is just the A5 certificate, but they're all on Swim England shop. If you just go to the adult framework section, you'll see those in there. Okay. So yeah, we have the adult distance awards as well. So they go from 5 metres all the way up to 1 mile, but none of them, we don't have the stroke specific ones like we do within the stages 1 to 7. Doesn't mean to say that you can't award any awards that are in stages 1 to 7 alongside these at all, if you wanted to do that. And then we created some free supporting resources. So I alluded to at the beginning, it was the adult swimming consultation form. So this is a free downloadable resource that you can find on our library, and again we'll send out the links to that at the end of this presentation. I understand that some people have to put their own branding on it. I'm not precious about this, whether you agree with all of the questions on it, but what I think is really useful for people to see is the back side of this form, which the front of it is all of our medical conditions, who they contact in an emergency, anything that we need to know about. But the other side of the form which I haven't got there. The other side of the form is all about identifying goals, motivations, fears, any issues with entering or exiting the pool. And the adult consultation form was designed that it wasn't just done once. It was something that you could keep, and then the adults could have a look through as they progress through their journey to see whether their fears or their goals, either their fears had been challenged and they've come over their fears, or their goals have been achieved. So I think the other side of that's really nice. So you can either download and use our version, or you can use the questions on the other side and put it into yours. If you have an online kind of sign up for your adult swimming lessons, you can use those there. So it's not precious about that at all, but it's quite a useful resource just to have a think about how you introduce your swimmers to that adult learn to swim framework. Then we also have a range of posters. I know we talk about putting the posters outside of the facilities. So you can use these in doctors' surgeries and bits and pieces if you wanted, but we just created some collateral for those that might not have access to marketing departments. So if you're a smaller independent swim school and you don't have a marketing department, we do have some posters that are also available. If you don't have access to a quality printer, we are able to print some of these, but we would charge you for those with postage and packaging on there. But if you want to download them and print them yourself, again, we can send those out to you guys after this webinar. Just another resource where you can find out more information. We do have our Pooling Resources newsletter. The link's at the bottom, and again, we'll send that out in the follow-up email. But if you sign up to our newsletter, any of the webinars that will be coming out and moving forward, so the ones that Bethan mentioned around stroke, arthritis, and working with Mind UK, and any others that myself or Bethan might be presenting on, if you sign up to that newsletter, you'll get a list of those that are available, and any new updates from the Learn to Swim team. Obviously, due to GDPR, if you were signed up to anything previously, we are unable to contact you. So this is our new method of doing so. So after this webinar, if you haven't signed up to say on the newsletter that we can contact you, unfortunately, after the feedback survey, we will not be able to send you any more promotional material at that point, unless you're in one of our other marketing channels. So yeah, it's a newsletter which talks about everything Swim England. It's normally dominated by Learn to Swim and what we've got coming up soon. So if you want to sign up and have a look at that, that would be great. And that brings us to the end. I'm sorry we overrun by 7 minutes, but there was quite a few of you online, which was great to see. So Friday mornings is obviously one that we should stick to. But if anybody has any questions, Bethan and myself will stay online. But the rest of you are free to enjoy your day and have a great weekend. Thank you so much for listening.